This program on investing under regulation crowdfunding is not investment advice.
Rising with the crowd, power unbound, change makers lead where hope is found. Superpowers for good, shaping the fate. Investors and dreamers open the gate. Supercross stands loud, proud and true, building tomorrow for me and you.
Have you ever wished that there might be just one secret key to solving all of our energy problems on this planet? There kind of is that key, fusion, and billions of dollars have been spent chasing it. Today's guest is working quietly in a tiny corner of the universe on a solution that is a little bit unique from all the others in this space. So stick around. You want to see more about this today. This is also something you can invest in. So stick around. You don't want to miss this. Welcome to the Super Crowd Presents the Superpowers for Good show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and today's guest is Eric Lerner. He's the CEO and founder of LPPFusion. We are excited to have him on the show. Eric, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Devin.
We're thrilled. What you're working on. It's hard to think of anything that's like a bigger deal. There just isn't. There just isn't anything that's a bigger deal than what you're working on. And like I said in the intro, billions of dollars have been spent on this, but you're approaching this in a different way. Tell us about your unique solution and why you think it's going to work when so much money's been spent on processes that don't yet work.
Right. Well, our approach is different in two ways. One way that we share with a number of other companies is we're using a different fuel. So most of the efforts in fusion have been using deuterium plus tritium. Tritium is a radioactive isotope of hydrogen. And that's where the problem starts. But the biggest problem is that when these two fuels interact, they produce lots of neutrons. Neutrons can be very destructive of both people and machines. So you have to make the machine very big to dilute the neutrons. So that leads to projects that are the size of the ITER project, which is about the size of the pyramids. So that makes them very expensive. What we're doing is using hydrogen plus boron, non-radioactive elements that are abundant. And when they combine, they produce pure helium and no neutrons. And that means we can make the machine very compact, very small, very cheap, and we can convert the energy directly to electricity without using steam turbines and generators, which are very expensive. So that's unique approach number one, which again, we do share with a number of other companies and researchers. But unique approach number two is the machine we're using, called a dense plasma focus. One of the big problems in fusion is that you have to use a plasma. Now, a plasma is an electrically conducting gas. And you can see here are tiny electrodes, which you can literally hold in your hand. So in this plasma, there are a lot of instabilities because currents moving through a plasma attract each other through their magnetic fields. Most people in the field try to suppress those instabilities, try to make the plasma sit still like a good dog. But we imitate nature. And in the universe, which is mostly made out of plasma, we see these instabilities all over the place. And the machine we're working with, Plasma Focus, uses those instabilities to compress and heat the plasma. And that also makes our path a lot easier.
I love what you're doing. This is just so exciting to think about. And I'm grateful that you would take the time to be with us today. Um, you are raising from the crowd via WeFunder. Tell us a little bit about why you are using crowdfunding and how that fits into your overall plans to make this work.
Well, like other people, we're using crowdfunding because we can reach a lot of people who would not qualify for the accredited investors packages. You know, an accredited investor is somebody with $1 million in assets or $200,000 in income. That's only about 1% of the population. So through crowdfunding, we can reach lots of people. And we are reaching lots of people. So that's one thing. And the other thing is we are using crowdfunding simply to reach a mass audience that has to know about this technology. Most people don't know about fusion. And what they do know about fusion is that it's very expensive and it's taken a long time. So it's both our public outreach and, you know, another source of income that comes from the 99% of the population rather than the 1%. We're also reaching out to that 1% and getting about half of our investment from them as well.
That is great, and I'm excited to see the progress that you're making. And I wonder, uh, tell us a little bit about you have published a number of scientific papers that are peer reviewed and um, accepted as being authoritative. Help us understand why there isn't more money chasing your approach. What is the hang up that other people are seeing that you're seeing a solution to? There's something there that you think you've got figured out that other people think maybe you can't figure out. What
Well,
is it?
part of it is the media. I mean, what these published papers show, and in one case, they were for a special issue on private fusion, where the reviewers were researchers from our competitors. So we were all reviewing each other's papers as fairly as we could. So those papers show that we have the best scientific results of any private fusion company. And by the best results, I mean by the measure most of us use, which is how much fusion energy we get out for every unit of energy we put into the machine. And nobody's gotten more energy out of the machine than they put in. But among private fusion companies, we're the one that's gotten closest. So that shows that we're the leader in results, but we're far from the leader in money. I mean, people have raised, the biggest companies like TAE have raised more than $1 billion, I think a good deal more. And our total raise from all sources is of the order of 11 million. And to a certain extent, we think this is a good thing because we show that we can get great results for little money, which should show efficiency. But to the mass media, and we've talked to journalists and editors who've told us this first person, they are reporting on fusion from the standpoint of who has the most money, not who has the best results. So that's a big barrier because if people are interested in this field, they read the mass media and they don't read about us. So they think, well, is this really credible? So that's one thing that we're trying to break through. And, it basically is the publicity. Now, we think we're in the process of getting very close to some major new breakthroughs. And we think that that's going to help us get the attention first in the scientific literature, in high profile journals, and then in the mass media that's going to help us break through on the money side.
As you think about the challenges with fusion, I think I want to circle back kind of to where we began our conversation. And that is, I want to make the point so that it's absolutely clear to people the potential for sort of infinite energy here. Because in our discussion, we've kind of jumped into the weeds without talking a little bit more about the big picture. If you can put in 100 kilowatts and get 110 kilowatts back out, that's magic, right? It's virtually seems like magic. It
Well,
creates infinite energy, right? Explain how that works and the potential for this.
the point is that if you look at the history of humanity over the last centuries, we've progressed by going to denser energy sources that you can get more power out of less mass. We've gone from wood to coal to oil and gas. And that's led to enormous increases in the standard of living. Well, if you go from oil and gas to our fuel, hydrogen-boron fuel, which derives its energy from the nucleus, from nuclear forces, without producing any radioactive waste, you're going up in energy density 1,000,000-fold. So instead of burning 14 billion tons of fossil fuel each year, we'd be burning 14,000 tons of PB11 fuel. P is for the proton in hydrogen, and boron 11 is the dominant natural isotope of boron. So this is basically unlimited energy, because right now, if we convert all of our energies over to PB11, to hydrogen boron, or what we call focused fusion, we would be using only 1/10 of the boron that's mined today. And if we ever run out of boron on land, boron is one of the major constituents of sea salt. So there's billions of years of this fuel available. So it is basically totally unlimited from our standpoint. We could raise the standard of living of everybody in the world to the highest standard of living in West Europe, with, at the same time, cutting the cost of energy tenfold. So getting rid of the $5 to $10 trillion that we're all paying to the oil and gas companies right now. And in addition, in light of recent headlines, it would also get rid of a lot of potential for conflict, because you could shut down all the uranium mines, because you wouldn't need nuclear power. You'd have a much cheaper, clean, unlimited power that could not be turned into a weapon. And you wouldn't need all the oil in the Mideast, because we would have transitioned entirely away from oil and gas.
Yeah, it's
Replace
amazing.
all sources of energy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is truly amazing. Super Crowd, I want you to think about this. This is the potential for infinite energy. And yes, there are people, I think, who'd say that Eric's on the wrong path. But can you imagine, if he's on the right path, what his company might be worth someday? And would you want to have a little piece of that? Think about that for a minute. This is really an interesting opportunity for us. Eric, we got to take a quick break, but we'll be back with you here in a minute. Folks, today I'm here with Eric Lerner. He's the CEO and founder of LPPFusion. This is a company that could and certainly believes that it has figured out a path to practically infinite energy. And that is unlimited potential. That is so exciting. Listen, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk to Eric about his superpower. You don't want to miss this. Stick around.
Download a free copy of How to Make Money with Impact Crowdfunding. The book Sarah Hanks describes as
a fantastic overview, not just of crowdfunding investing, but of investing in general.
Andrew Savickas raved,
"This book offers unparalleled insights for anyone looking to make a difference."
Scan the QR code to get your copy. Supercrowd 25, where innovation meets impact.
18 hours of live content, 5 platforms, 1 global audience.
Join the largest event for regulated investment crowdfunding. Live pitches, expert panels, real change.
August 21st and 22nd.
Scan the code or visit thesupercrowd25.com to register free today.
Struggling to raise capital for your business? Unlock the power of the crowd with AI. My free guide, Crowdfunding Made Simple, walks you through every step to success. Get funded smarter, faster. Scan the QR code now for your free download.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Devin. I'm your host here at the Supercrowd Presents Superpowers for Good, and we're so excited to have with us today Eric Lerner, the CEO and founder of LPPFusion. It's an amazing company that is trying to crack the code of fusion, a virtually infinite energy source. This is exciting stuff, but we're going to shift gears to talk to Eric about his superpower. Stick around. Eric, you're doing something that is, by any objective standard, amazing, right? The fact that you have made the tremendous progress you've made with such a small amount of money, the difference you're making, it's almost incredible. It's exciting. It's wonderful. What is your superpower?
Well, that's a good question. I thought about it. I think the superpower I have is the scientific method. The scientific method is really the power that we have not only to predict the future, but to change the future. And the scientific method is not something that I learned at Columbia University, which is where I got my degree in physics, one of the top schools in physics. When I look back on it, we didn't even discuss scientific method. But through my association with my colleagues, older colleagues, Winston Bostick, Victoria Nardi, and especially Nobel laureate Hannes Alfvén, I did learn what the scientific method is. And there are some salient points. We don't have time to go into all of it. First of all, the scientific method is a way of learning what the universe is, the truth about the universe, by the method of prediction and test against observations made subsequent to those predictions. So it really is about testing whether you can predict aspects of the future. As I put it, you want to predict that the airplane that you're flying will get safely to the other side of the ocean, not explain why it crashed. And that's what science has been doing for centuries. Second of all, science is a collaborative effort. People think of the sole genius, and that's not how science works. Science works on the basis of an enormous literature, which tells you what scientists have been doing, and collaborating in the present. We have a small team. My colleague Syed Hassan, Ivy Karamitsos, Rudy Frisch up in Quebec, and a few other people. But that collaboration, and with my colleagues in similar labs around the world, is absolutely critical to getting to the truth that can change the world. And the third thing is, and not all scientists would agree with this, I think the best way to use science is to understand the processes that are going on in the universe and in the lab. And not about things, but the processes that create and sustain things. And I can give an example of that in terms.
Okay. Well, I wonder if we could shift gears just a tiny bit,
Sure.
and rather than think about the scientific processes, you talk about your superpower, understanding the scientific method and using it, and we see the progress you're making, right? You are, by objective standards, arguably the leading developer of fusion energy. Incredible, billions of dollars spent, and little Eric at little LPP Fusion is the leader. Wow. What is an example, a specific incident, an anecdote, a story you could share when you deployed the scientific method, the scientific approach, and you were able to accomplish something specific? I'm looking for that event in your life that you could use to illustrate how this works.
Right. That's what I was getting to.
Okay.
I mean, the fourth thing that I want to say about the scientific method is that it involves a lot of persistence. It does lead to truth, but there's no guarantee how long it takes. I read an article the other day that said about a medical development that said it involves 1,000 experiments that fail for every one that succeeds. And that's about right. So I think the best example was when I was just entering this field back in the late 1970s and early 80s. I was very interested in astronomical astrophysics, and I still am. I'm still a researcher in that field. And I noticed a certain regularity in the very large scale structures in the universe, that the size of these structures and the mass of these structures scaled in a certain way that seemed to stretch from the microscopic to the ultramacroscopic. Well, guided by these mentors that I mentioned, I started to look for the scientific electromagnetic processes that could create this regularity. And I was led to the work of Alfvén and his colleagues on plasma filaments. And these are vortices, sort of whirlwinds that form at all scales, down to the laboratory scale, and concentrate energy. And that was actually what led to the first designs of this fusion energy device that we're using now, which is our variant of the dense plasma focus. So
That's great.
we were able to demonstrate in the laboratory that these plasma filaments, which we've taken pictures of, really exist in exactly the same way that they do in the universe. And these filaments can really be part of the key to getting to practical fusion energy.
Yeah, it's very cool. As we wrap up now, I wish we could talk for hours. Time is ending.
Right.
People who are watching are going to want to learn more, right? They're going to want to connect with you. They're going to want to research this. This is amazing stuff. Give them some guidance on how to connect, how to look, how to find more information about the investment opportunity, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, there are a number of places. First of all, there's our company website, which has a lot of both news and science on it. And we're very open. We publish all the work that we do. So that's just called LPPFusion.com. We have a YouTube channel, which has a lot of our videos, which can be accessed from our website. But again, it's called LPP Fusion. And of course, we have the WeFunder site, which is, again, WeFunder/LPP Fusion. So between those, that gives people a good picture of what we're doing. We don't hide everything, anything, and we're very transparent.
That's excellent. And there is on the screen a short link, s4g.biz/fusion. Take you right to the WeFunder page as well, folks. I want to thank you, Eric, for taking the time to be with us today. We really, SuperCrowd joined me in thanking Eric. If he's successful in completing this mission, it will change our lives in ways we can't even fathom. Eric, thank you. We wish you every success.
Well, thank you for having me, Devin.
All righty now. Let's do some good.
Okay.